Hello, my fellow Darklings, and of course all other forms of being. My name is Rainbow Slaney, and it is finally Halloween once again. Since it's Halloween, I should probably slip into something a bit more comfortable. Or, rather, shed to get more comfortable. Give me a second. That's better. Every October I tend to shed my skin and flesh, since it does get kinda tiring to carry it all around every year. Hey, I gotta take a break sometime. But yes, the Festival of Fear is upon us once again. You may or may not remember from last year, but I uploaded my first Halloween special onto YouTube. Well, this year, I decided to do another Halloween special, since it's really fun to make these kinds of videos. So, for this year's Halloween special, I'm going to be listing off my top 10 scariest things in non-horror video games. But I'd like to go over a few rules first before we actually get into the list. Number 1. These can only be from non-horror video games, but I will accept video games with creepier horror-like aspects to them. Trust me, as much as I love horror games and media, games like that deserve a list on their own, and mixing them together just wouldn't make any sense in my opinion. Number 2. I'm only accepting one game per franchise. If this was not the case, this list would be way longer. And number 3. When I say anything, I mean anything. Easter eggs, soundtracks, glitches, or even just gameplay itself will be included. I also want to note that I'm sure a lot of people won't agree with everything on my list, and that's perfectly fine. If you have anything in non-horror video games that scared you, I'd love to hear what it was in the comments below. And be wary, there are spoilers included in this list as well. With all of that being said, let's get right into it.
Smack cam! Bitch, I hope the fuck you do! You'll be a dead son of a bitch, I tell you that!
One of my favorite games of all time has to be the original BioShock. Some may argue that this is a horror game, but I don't think that's entirely true. Sure, it may have some creepy elements to it, such as drugged up enemies, child abductions, and the fact that you're literally in an abandoned city under the sea all alone. Despite all of that, I still do not think it's a horror game. It's more of an action survival game that just has dark themes to it. In fact, in a lot of ways, I think this game is beautiful, in a creepy way. The environments, the soundtrack, the designs, everything about this game is just strangely pretty to me. However, there's always been one area in the game that almost everyone agrees is one of, if not the creepiest place in the game, and that's Painless Dental. I was actually debating putting Dr. Steinman's clinic in this entry, since it is the most we get out of the horror elements in this game. And come on, what do you expect a drugged up insane doctor to do? Eat crumpets and have a lovely discussion on why women don't deserve rights? But I put Painless Dental in this entry because it has just always felt a lot spookier to me. It gives me major Silent Hill vibes with the fog and mist that covers your vision, keeping you on your toes for most of the time you're in the area. The scariest part about this place for me is the desk in the back corner. This desk contains bullets, a new tonic, and an audio diary. As you grab the items from the desk, your vision starts to mist up again. And then, you turn around. Hello? We've been trying to reach you about your cause extended warranty. I swear, this part of the game was one of the parts that stuck with me even after I finished BioShock. What's even more creepy is how subtle it is, and how you can even prevent it from happening by not turning around at all. The best part is that if you do turn around, the guy doesn't even jump scare you. All he does is breathe down your neck until you either ignore him, or, like I said, turn around and face him. No loud noises either, just complete silence once you see him. Games like this would either accompany a jump scare like this with a loud noise, but BioShock doesn't. And I honestly respect that.
Stop it!
Let me ask you a simple question. What is your biggest fear? We all have something we fear, even if we don't recognize it at first. And fear can come in many different forms. Some may be afraid of tight, closed-off spaces. Others may be afraid of being rejected by someone or something. I, personally, fear a lot of things. But one of those things are mannequins. Or anything that are human-like, but not exactly human. This phobia is called automonophobia, which isn't limited to mannequins, of course. This also includes wax figures, statues, dummies, and animatronics. But to be completely honest with you, I've only ever felt this way towards mannequins. Almost everything else except for animatronics I've been pretty okay with. Hell, I even remember when I was younger I used to play with mannequins and pretend they were real people when I went to clothes stores. Nowadays, I just tend to stay away from them and get a bit freaked out when I'm near them. Now with that all out of the way, I'd like to speak about the mannequins from Call of Duty Black Ops 3. Although not one of the favored COD games, this was one of my first Call of Duty games, and I loved it. And one of my favorite maps was Nuketown. But one of the things I hated about Nuketown was, you guessed it, the mannequins. Now before you say anything, yes, I am aware Nuketown is a reoccurring map that includes mannequins. But in my opinion, the scariest mannequins by far are the Black Ops 3 mannequins. Unlike the ones from past games, these ones are completely naked. No clothes, and barely any facial features. Yet they're supposed to look human. I remember I would constantly run into these guys all over the map and freak myself out, thinking they were enemy players. Before I'd get killed, of course. But that wasn't the end of it. You see, there was an Easter egg with this map, where if you were to go into a custom game with this map, shoot all of the heads off of all the mannequins within 2 minutes, then all the mannequins would turn into zombies and infinitely spawn. There's also another version of this, where instead, you shoot the left arm off of all the mannequins. They also turn into zombies, but this time they freeze when you look at them. Which, to me, is infinitely more creepy. And this is exactly why I fear mannequins. I'm afraid they're moving when I'm not looking at them. And seeing this makes me suspicious of every mannequin around me.
Facey, face, face, face! Tired of waiting! No more waiting! Need a face shot! Boom! Squish! Yay!
Want to know what one of my favorite game franchises is? Borderlands. There's just something about this looter shooter game that has so much charm to it. I love the characters, the areas, the weapons, most of the missions. Literally everything about the games I love. It's such a unique game that has made an impact on my life. Now before we talk about this next unsettling thing, somebody somewhere is gonna say, "But Lainey, you play Borderlands on PlayStation. You don't play on PC. Therefore you can't put this glitch on the list because it's on the PC version." First of all, yes I can. It's my list. Secondly, just because I haven't played Borderlands on PC and haven't experienced this creepy glitch doesn't mean I can't put it on the list, because I still find it creepy and I want to include it. But yes, this next entry is a glitch in the original Borderlands that happens when you boot up the game on PC. If you minimize the game and go to a different application while the logos and stuff play, you will hear these utterly disturbing sounds. What are these sounds, you may ask? Well, upon further investigation, it is actually a slowed down version of an animal sound in the game. Why is this here? No one knows, and it's been categorized as a glitch. Not even the goddamn developers, even the creator of Borderlands, know how this happened. And as of now, it hasn't been patched out in any way, meaning you could accidentally stumble upon this glitch late at night and absolutely shit yourself. Oh. I think I just shat my pants.
Oh no! Our table! It's broken!
The first video game console I owned was the Nintendo Wii, and I love the hell out of that thing. I love it so much that I still have it to this day, along with some of my favorite Wii games, such as Knight's Journey of Dreams, Animal Crossing, Super Smash Bros. Brawl, Super Mario Bros. Wii, but among all of them, one of my favorite Wii games to play growing up was Pikmin 2. This was my first experience with Pikmin, and despite it being one of the shortest games, and one of the most divisive games within the Pikmin community, I do love this game a lot. Now, despite me loving the game, there is one reason why I don't like this game. Well, it's not a reason, it's more of a thing in the game that makes me dread coming back to it. And that thing is the submerged castle level. At first, this seems like a normal cave level, but upon entering it, the first thing you'll notice is a very weird and out-of-place soundtrack. The instruments and the random humming don't merge together, and it immediately puts you a bit on edge, even if you're expecting a normal cave level. But this isn't the only thing you should be worried about, because this is one of the hardest levels in the game, since you're only allowed to bring water Pikmin. Which sucks, because most of the hazards are for other Pikmin to handle. So you better be very cautious and playing pretty smart, or else all your Pikmin will die pretty fast. But besides from that, if you spend too long within a certain part of the level, that's when it all goes to hell. Because out of nowhere, a creature called the Water Wraith will drop down from the ceiling and make its way to attack you. Oh, and did I mention, if it hits you or any of your Pikmin, it's a one-hit KO, and it can't be killed, and it just spawns randomly whenever it feels like it, meaning you have to stay on your toes at all times? And even if you try to escape, there's no way of stunning or confusing it. It knows exactly where you are at all times, making it 20 times more difficult than before to get treasure. I'll tell you right now, when I first played this level when I was younger, this scared the hell out of me, and it made me feel so much anxiety. Just the thought that this thing could come out at about any time to smush you and your Pikmin, meaning you have to go through this anxiety every time you die, over and over again. Which to me is just absolutely terrible.
Guys, this is what dying feels like. Gonna catch me rotten dirty.
Speaking of the Wii, one of my other favorite games of all time is The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess. Most people for a list like this would default to games like Majora's Mask or Ocarina of Time. And though those games do have quite the scare factor, I definitely think Twilight Princess takes the cake. I don't know what it is about this game, but I've always loved it since I first played it. The lore, the characters, the locations, everything is so fantastic in this game. And yet, there are a few elements in this game that are creepy or even scary, from the creepy vision Link has, or the part of the game where Zant cracks his neck and literally kills Ganon.
You're telling me this game was for kids?
But believe it or not, this spot actually goes to one of the bosses in the game, Blizzetta. Upon arriving, you enter Yetta's home to get a piece of the Mirror of Twilight back. However, when she leads you to it, creepy and eerie music starts to play as she looks into it and starts to compliment the mirror, telling how pretty it is. After this, she starts to involuntarily twitch as the camera starts to move into the back of her head, and then... Well, fuck me, I just wanted the mirror piece, but if you want to turn into a Yeti demon, I guess that's fine by me too. As a kid, this alone terrified me when I first saw it. This was like my Sonic.exe before Sonic.exe even existed. As much as the other scenes in the game scared me, this scene stuck with me for a good while. The way her face turns around completely to reveal the much creepier face, the way the music booms, making you instantly feel trapped and isolated, the way she floats up into an air like a goddamn demon, everything about this is fucking scary. However, her boss fight isn't really anything special. In fact, she's pretty easy to beat.
Don't worry, your kid should get over the trauma of Blizzetta in about 12 years of therapy?
Everybody deals with grief differently, right? Some people fuck at funerals. I cut off heads.
Okay, I'm just gonna talk about one more Wii game. Just one more. I promise. This time, I'm gonna be talking about No More Heroes 2 Desperate Struggle. But what could be scary about this game? It's just a game about an assassin who's getting revenge because his friend died, and has to kill other assassins to become the #1 ranked assassin. Almost all the bosses are very entertaining and fun to go up against. But there is one that, in my opinion, is very unsettling. The 24th ranked assassin, Matt Helms. Just looking at this guy alone is terrifying. A giant fat guy drenched in blood with an eerie mask that smiles back at you. Not only that, but he also wields a flamethrower with an axe on the end. He even giggles occasionally, which is just unnerving. I swear to God, if this guy doesn't get into Dead by Daylight anytime soon, I will be livid. Oh, but you think this is it? Oh, no. After you finally end Helms, this cutscene proceeds to play.
Well, that was gross. What? What's a kid doing here?
I'm gonna kill you.
What's that?
This is a problem with fighting the supernatural. You cannot kill someone who's already dead.
Yeah, fuck no. His soundtrack is pretty dope though, I ain't gonna lie.
Detective, this is a crime scene!
What is this, a murder weapon? Get off my dick!
A game series that has gone up in popularity recently is Danganronpa. I love this game series, not only because of the story, but because of the characters as well. Sure, it has some very questionable parts to the games, but overall I think it's pretty good. However, one of these questionable parts I mentioned is what we're going to be talking about here today. I was originally going to put something from Ultra Despair Girls here, but I thought it would be kind of insensitive to put some of these scenes in, since, spoiler alert, these are traumatic events that happen to kids, and putting stuff like that in this video would be very triggering to some people. I understand I have talked about triggering topics before, but this is supposed to be a fun Halloween video, and I don't want to accidentally trigger someone or make them feel uncomfortable because I'm digging at their trauma. So instead, I decided to dig something up from the very first Danganronpa game, and if I'm being honest, I think this is a much better choice anyways. Oh, I'm sorry. Quick question. What the hell was that? Now, for those who don't know, allow me to explain. In this class trial, you're supposed to find out who the killer of Mukuro Ikusawa is. The problem is, nobody killed her, so you have to make a choice. Either you pin the murder on your partner, Kyoko Kirigiri, or you take the blame for the murder. To progress in the story, you must pin the murder onto yourself. But if you pin it on Kirigiri, you get this ending. And with this ending, there are a lot of questions to be asked. Why is Toko dead? Did Aoi give birth to all their children? Why is Byakuya smiling? Why is everyone even happy? You're telling me that not one of these motherfuckers went insane and killed someone else? Again, how did Toko die? The more questions I seem to ask, the more concerned I become. And the disturbing cherry on top? They seem genuinely happy and content with living this life. They have all accepted living in the school forever without ever knowing what happened to their friends and family. I'm pretty sure no spooky top 10 list would be complete without seeing something from the Kirby franchise. Despite Kirby being known for its cutesy aesthetics and appearance, there are times where the Kirby games can get really, really dark. As much as I wanted to put 02 in this list, I unfortunately never played Kirby 64 The Crystal Shards. but I can show you something that might be a bit better. This is from Kirby Canvas Curse. This is Dracia's world. This is before the Dracia boss fight. You have to go through this entire level, which has no enemies. The soundtrack, if you can call it that, just sounds like static, until instruments come in that, even then, it still sounds very out of place and weird. It sort of reminds me of the Submerged Castle soundtrack I talked about earlier in the list. Even though there are no enemies in this level, there are paintings that accompany you, but all they do is smirk and laugh at you, as if taunting you. But in a way, this kinda sums up Dracia's personality perfectly. The emptiness in the world shows how lonely she is, and the soundtrack might symbolize her as well. Her being the only voice in her own mind, since she's lived in a painting for so long. If you look at it that way, it actually makes it even more creepy and depressing.
You will be prosecuted to the full extent of the jam.
You wanna know what one of my favorite fighting games of all time is? Skullgirls. Yeah, unpopular opinion here, but I like Skullgirls more than Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter. Not saying that they're bad game series, they're just my opinion. But Skullgirls, in my opinion, is more than just a fighting game. It actually has a lot more dark themes than you think. No, it doesn't get excessively bloody like Mortal Kombat does, but Skullgirls does include zombies and parasites, which already is kind of unnerving, and that's just barely scratching the surface. Besides those examples, the thing I'll be talking about that's terrifying in Skullgirls is one of the stages and its soundtrack. In particular, I'm talking about the stage that came along when Eliza was first released, Gehenna. This stage is a literal hellscape that's occupied by teeth, veins, and a pool of blood. Not only that, but this stage is located underneath the Grand Cathedral, meaning these are technically catacombs. This stage is very out of place in the game, considering most of the stages are more gothic in comparison. And the soundtrack. Oh boy, the soundtrack. Where do I even begin with this? This soundtrack could put Pokemon's Lavender Town to shame. That's how terrifying and unnerving it is. The best part about this stage? Nobody really knows what this place even is. It just seemed to come out of nowhere. According to Double, she describes this as her domain, which, well, I guess would make a lot of sense. But the scariest part? Gehenna is just another name for hell, according to Judeo-Christian myth. This is also where worshippers of Baal had made child sacrifices and was described as filled with blood of the innocents. So basically this is just hell. In Skullgirls. Jesus Christ, this game just got so much darker.
Such a lust for revenge! Ooh!
Shadow of the Colossus is an absolute gem of a game, and it also happens to be another one of my favorite games of all time. It has an amazing story, beautiful atmosphere, and most of the bosses are awesome. It's such a great game, and I couldn't recommend it enough to anyone. Seriously, go check it out if you have the money and free time to, because I'm not kidding when I'm saying it's amazing. That being said, I can't deny this game has its creepy moments and lore. From some of the cut content from the original PS2 release, to even some of the things the game has now. But what is the creepy thing I'll be talking about? The game over screen, from both the PS2 version and the PS4 version. Okay, before you get mad at me, allow me to explain. So if you don't know the lore of this game, you play as Wander, who travels to the Forbidden Lands to save the girl he loves, whose name is Mono. The Forbidden Lands holds an ancient being named Dorman, who was sealed away there. He promises to save Mono if you kill all 16 Colossi, which each have a piece of his power locked inside them. Each Colossus also has a different way of being defeated. When you die in both versions, you get a game over screen, where you see the Colossus who you just tried to kill staring back at you, while somber music plays in the background. These game over screens are honestly very uncanny and creepy. Unless you die from Dirge on the PS2 version. I can't be scared if he looks like goddamn Kermit the Frog. Oh fuck, okay, I'm sorry! Though I think both versions are pretty creepy, a lot of people think the PS2 versions are a lot scarier, which I can honestly see where they're coming from. The game over screens on the PS2 version are in black and white, and they're grainy, making it hard to even know what you're looking at. All you know is that they have soul-piercing eyes, and they will probably haunt your nightmares. Another thing disturbing about these game over screens is that in the PS4 version, where they have color, all the Colossi have blue eyes, meaning they're all in a calm state. So if they really are staring down at you while you die, they could be feeling sadness and sorrow for you. Not only are they upset that you tried to kill them, but that they had to kill you. Except for Dirge, that fucker is begging you to try that shit again with him. Look at that smug bastard. And considering what happens to Wander at the very end of the game, this could technically be considered a good ending. Because in the end, the Colossi are sentient vessels trying to not only protect themselves, but protect the lands that people like Wander inhabit. When you look at it from that perspective, it not only makes it a bit more disturbing, but just another hint at the thought that you could be the villain in this scenario. And there you have it. That was my list of the top 10 scariest things in non-horror video games. I hope you all enjoyed it, and again, if you have a scary experience from a non-horror video game, let me know in the comments below. Thank you all for watching, I hope you have a very spooky Halloween, and that's about it. Peace, and bye-bye.